financially, you know. Like Willis will come and mint money from us, or Nonsis will come and mint money from our family. So it could be whatever.
It
but
could be a lot of situations.
Let children be. Let them be. And again, anyway.
No, it's okay. Yeah. So when it comes to that area of, you know, everybody, whether Christian or not, or whatever your denomination, you want your parents' blessings. But here comes a point where now clearly they say something like that. They say, you know what, well, CJ, it's been 18 years, I don't use an example. Shatta, if you marry, if you marry Shiro, there'll be a problem.
We're done.
Shatta, if you marry Atieno, there'll be a problem. You must marry Kaloki. Or you must marry within the. So what do you do in such a instance? Because the people who are probably watching, I am sure there's somebody who is going through that at this point in time.
You see, whichever case we're dealing with, whether it is the element of career or the element of choices and matters of marriage, I think the greatest schism there is the breakdown in communication. When Shatta was talking about, you know, you want to tell them now, I'm going to be a DJ, and they can't see that because in their days, you are either a teacher from, you know, TTC, or you've come from nursing, then you've gotten a job. The thing is that there needs to be a connection now to how the world is right now. And you probably then need to do a bit more explaining on why you're making those choices, what it means to you, how it will relate to everything that you have done, allay their fears. And that is the same even when you want to marry somebody. It's normally based on certain fears, whether the cultures will be compatible, whether that marriage will last. It could be stereotypes. It could just be deep-rooted vendetta over years and all of those kind of things. So for you to move somebody from that particular point, there has got to be very deliberate communication and information going out to them in bits that they can take so that they begin to deal with the questions they have in their minds. All this hostility is questions that are unasked and questions that somebody is dealing with in their mind. So if you come in and say, you see, nowadays people can make money even through DJing, and it doesn't mean that I'm going to be, you know, sleeping around with everybody and drinking till morning or something. There are these clean people who can do this, and then you begin to show them how the world has evolved. Same way, if it is in a matter of marriage that you want to bring up somebody, again, it goes back to the element of character. You just need to let them know, look, this person may have come from this particular tribe, but they are honest, they are virtuous, they are not their tribe, they're not even their family per se, because even in families, you'll have one kid who is, you know, a maverick, and then you have another one who is still fine, you know. So it's the element of how do we communicate. Now, children, the problem is this, that parents come from the fear of where they're coming from. Then children, instead of explaining that, we rebel. So that's where there's a disconnect. We don't have the conversations. Parents have a responsibility. They must initiate conversations as well. You can't just come and lump it on your child and say, look, you can't marry, you can't do this, you can't do this, my word is final. We're not talking about this again.
Actually, that thing has triggered PTSD. My word is fine. My word is fine has triggered.
You felt a little something.
PTSD.
That's the last one.
You can't have that.
Yes.
On the other hand.
Why? Because I said.
Yeah, and then on the other hand, the children as well should not just say, okay, it doesn't matter what you think, this is the path. Because the truth is, you and your parent are going to relate for a long time. Even when you get to 70 and your parent is 90, they still remain to be your parent, you know. I'll just give a personal example. My sons came together and they decided all they want to do in life is football. So then they were not at that particular point concentrating much on their grades, and they'll have those discussions, and especially with their mom. So they will say, you know, what we really want to do is to play football. So we had to sit down with them. We had to sit down with them and say, okay,
and you have examples now of the Olungas
Yes.
But also when you look at the situation of that people in this country, najua sija alikuwa anauliza hii pesa nitawahi pata siku gani?
But
So,
football is, I mean, government. Football is doing well.
The deal, Willis, was, so we sit down and we say, okay, give me the grades, and then I don't mind you going into the football. And then we started talking about people like Emmanuel Ebue, who, you know, they played well, they got their money, they lost it, and so you bring up those issues like, well, you can make your money, but you need this education so that you can keep your money.
To manage it.
Otherwise, somebody else will swindle you. So I think we need to have conversations. The parent cannot just come in and say, my word is law, and the child cannot just say, I don't care. What do you say, what do you think?
Yeah. Because I guess what you're saying, I think that, you know, the children, the parents rather, basically need to, and I'm sure if their parents and children watching today's show, they're like, or you know, they're nudging each other,
at this rate, what you want to say?
Or they're just quiet, they look at each other. But I guess before you say it, I think parents should basically, what we're saying is, you should believe in how you've raised your children. If you've raised your children in a certain way, and wafike place wako ital, and they want to make some certain choices, you believe in the choices that they're making. Because that's the only way, like CJ is saying, you can open up channels of communication. If I know that my parent believes in me and they know my capabilities and they know who I am, then I can go and tell them anything. Hey, I messed up.
There's
nothing else I could do, and the conversation keeps flowing. We're about to get some of your feedback, so if you can, just remember it's 22422 and hashtag Daybreak. I'm going to take your feedback. Okay, well there it is. 24 inafanya. Oh, thank you. Okay, so Leon Mumali1 says, I never grew up with my parents, but the environment around me made me a better person, though that bitterness sometimes goes up to my kids. And that's what we're talking about, that sort of transference, for lack of a better word. Baby Rosie, this conversation is too healthy. I'm going through what I'm going through today because my parents could not believe me when I said I wanted to be a journalist. Wow. Deals for Wheels, okay, plug. On Parenting 101, as a case, my parents tried providing the best that they themselves lacked during their upbringing. In the long run, it kind of spoils me because of overprotection and provision. It later proved hard getting on course independently in the outside world. So, you know, they were kind of overcompensating. Amboga_deal says, some people completely walk away from how they were brought up. It may have been good, may have been bad. I believe your character depends on your individual absorption of all your life experiences. We are still on a journey of building and strengthening our character. And then we have Sell the Fiend. A person's character develops from 1, interaction with family members, 2, values acquired when interacting with people outside the family. Very interesting what they're saying there. And I know Shato ulikuwa na point up, but kuna mtu anasema hapo, you know, like you said, career, alikata. Then there's also now the flip side. You would imagine that overprotection, and I don't want you to go through the things I went through. It was hard for me coming up. So you build, you grew up in a bubble.
Yeah.
Anakupatia kila kitu nataka. And for somebody to realize yenyewe niliharibika. Ni kudom.
Ni kugwana.
Yeah.
Kama amepambana na maisha yamesikia hapa walinichocha. This is not what my parents told me. They did not give me the reality around. Unaelewa? Na hiyo ni risk tuko nao sisi young generation parents. We are bringing up a yes generation. But mtu yeye ambiwi no. Kitu mtu yeye anataka naambiwa yes. Hadi unaenda kuchukua loan usatisfy mtu huyu. Akitoka kwa wings zako akifika hapa nje ana realize ni kuugwana. Huku nje anaweza ambiwa no. Pale wewe majai ambiwa no. Anaanza kuwa sasa na depression, anaanza kuwa na issues kibao, anashangaa mbona dunia inanichukia. Lakini ni mzazi yako muequip kuja kubarana na dunia hapa nje. Unaelewa? That is a problem. But kurudi hapo pale tulikuwa hiyo so nilikuwa niuliza before. Pia usahau kuna wazazi utaka mtu yeye ishi akimuimpress. Itagwa subtle. It's subtle blackmail. That wewe unaishigi kutaka kuimpress mzazi wako. If you come home like this, they show you disappointment and you feel bad. You feel, leo nimeangusha wazazi wangu. So tomorrow, you want to impress them. You start doing what they want you to do, just to impress your parents. And they will never be satisfied with you. Hasa wanakucontrol na blackmail. Unapata, they tell you, usio kijana acha na yeye. Ukikataa wanakununia. Unafeel mimi sana ishiaje kama mzazi wangu aniongeleshi, unaanza kuachana na uchali. Unaona, unaanza kuachana na udem. They also use emotional what do I call it? Blackmail. Emotional blackmail to control you. Unaget? But wewe kama mtu mzima usha grow. There is what they taught you. Now you need to understand the world. You sit down and
So
ask,
trying to
and ask
apply it.
yourself, now, this is what they told me. This is what I was taught. But is this the truth? You see? You start, we mwenyewe, go on a journey of understanding who you are and understanding humanity. You see? Because there are things that God gave you kutoka uzaliwe. No one told you killing someone is bad while growing up. You just grew up and you knew it. You knew that this is wrong. You know? So there's things that God put in you, or your creator, that you need to acknowledge and tap into. There are things that you are told by your parents and you'll say, hapa na feel. Come, for example, if they tell you not to marry from a certain tribe, and maybe you've grown up believing it.
Yeah.
Now you sit down and ask yourself, was this true? Why should someone that did this and this affect my life today? I have not that someone. You see, the way that someone set a bad precedence, I can also marry and set a good precedence for the coming generation. That they be told, you see, they never used to marry this, but this one married it worked. Unaelewa?
Just no way, you're the one who starts the
Exactly.
You start the change.
You break the norm.
Yes, yes.
Unaelewa? But that does not mean you discard your parents' advice. There are things they see. You know, African, an ancient African I am. So it
When
really
they
is
say,
like
what they
pop-
say, what your
say
parents
this,
can
what,
see.
what an old man can see while sitting
Sitting
down.
down.
Hata upande juu ya mti, you won't see.
Utaona.
So we cannot discard their wisdom. Of course there are things they say, but pia wewe utajua sio kila kitu wanasema unafaa kufollow.
It's something that my brother taught me. He said, sometimes it is not in the way the message is delivered, but it is the message.
Itself.
It's not the way it was delivered. You know, it comes from a point of love. So you just take the message. The tone
The delivery is
It
not
was
more
delivered
very
in-
important.
might be a little bit here and
Ish.
there. But then, CJ, for those who, you know, it's a tough spot for parenting, especially in the 21st century, like Shatta said, and you know, now here is a place where you're parenting. Some are even parenting on social media, for example. Their kids all over, story for another day. But but it is also said that somebody said in the comments that some people drift away from how they're raised because they say a parent can either give an example of how to be a parent or give an example of how not to be.
Right.
So how in this modern 21st century do you think someone can be a good parent? Whether because now their parents at 19, their parents at 34, you know, their parents at unfortunately 16 even. But now how, I know the dynamics are different, but how do you be, you know?
I think the primary role for parenting is molding the person, not making choices for them. It's molding the person. That's like building a software in this person that I'm going back again into the element of good character. You mold this person knowing that they will go away from you one day. They will not be around you. They may go to school abroad and settle there. They won't even give you the chance of trying to know who they're marrying before you accept it or not. They'll just show you via photos. Me and so we are married. You know, so you won't even be there to determine how they make their financial decisions, how they make their romantic decisions and all of that. So you do your best in trying to mold the character of this person. That means that you show them possibilities, show them challenges, talk to them about realities as well. And then you've got to be patient. Man, this job is a day-to-day job.
You had to see 8 to 5.
Yeah. You've got to be
24/7.
patient. And there's metamorphosis in these kids as well. Today they're listening to you. Tomorrow they're coming to themselves. You can't give up at that particular point. Then the next day, well, they begin to appreciate you again, just a little bit. It keeps on changing. They're also trying to discover themselves within that process. So you really need to have a lot of patience. There are some things that you will talk about, you will teach, and you may mean well, and you may even know well. But they're not going to assimilate that information like immediately. They will have, you see the way Shatta says, you've got to ask yourself, why did this person say this? Why did this person say this? They are also trying to process the information you're giving them. Are you just trying to control me? Oh, you don't know life, you know, you are older generation, that was your time. They're processing all of those things. At some point, you have to allow them to have some sense of experience so that that experience can validate the information that you gave them. Because mostly life is understood in retrospect. So it's going to take a lot of patience, but love the person. Love the person. You may not get them doing what you want. I'll give you another example. You know, one of my sons, he's just done his year 11 now, so he's literally out of school as well. And when he was born, I thought and I said he would be a neurosurgeon. Do you know the first subject he dropped? It was biology. It was biology, man. I was like,
there it goes.
I was like, man, of all the things, you can't betray me to that level. And he dropped biology. You ask him, what do you want to do right now? And he will tell you he wants to be an architect. He's so far removed from what I would have wanted. But you have to keep the relationship with the person, not with your dreams through the person, not with your dreams. Then now you're upset. Oh, you did not become a lawyer. I wanted you to become a this. I wanted you to become a this. I wanted you to marry this person. No, your relationship is with your child. And that you've got to keep on having.
Yeah, well.
Are you laughing because you dropped assumptions?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was supposed to be in IT.
Yeah.
But here I am now. Hallelujah. Hey,
Funny enough, I think parents are also people who can bring out the best in you, even
That's
when you're
right.
in a state of confusion. Because
Right.
like, I remember for myself, I thought I wanted to become a lawyer. It's even funny when I'm saying it.
But I mean, unaongea vizuri.
But he's I think my mom looked at me when I finished Form 4 and she was like, you talk too much. I think the only course that can suit you is journalism. And right there and then, just I think she had really observed me when I was growing, and I think that was one of the best choices. So sometimes parents can also, if you're very invested in your child's
And you have a sort of a relationship.
life, and you have a relationship, and you can be able to tell this one, because even my concentration span is very small. She's like, hello, this one, all those books. She'll drop her halfway along the way.
When they continue,
But when CJ was talking about conversing and
Yes.
explaining,
Yes.
and I thought to myself, all the time we've sat around this table, we get bottom line to communication. So I think, can we just introduce these communication classes from grade 1, so that, you know, because again, it's not as easy as CJ makes it look like. Now sit down with your tyrannical father, who first of all will put the glasses down here and look at you. Ati tunataka tuongee, and I explain why I want to be a publicist.
Asema tu
Amke aende.
You know?
Ambia mama yako look at your child. Anaenda.
Yeah.
Look at your
Yeah,
child.
look at your child.
No,
So
no.
we need, because again, we're trying to give people voices, children voices, to talk, to air out. But when it comes to parents, my friend, some of our parents are not approachable. Let's be honest, especially fathers. So it's not as easy, but in mother tongue, we say whatever is in your heart does not win. So if you really justify, and like I say, research and back it up and say, I want to become this person because of A, B, C, D. I believe I have talent, and if you guys support me, we can go far. So I think it's not as easy, but you have to say it anyway.
Hapo kwa parents iko inverted hivi that unaona vile anasema some of the fathers are not approachable. You find a daughter talking to a dad, it's very easy for the dad to accommodate the daughter. And you, as a son, when you go explain to your mom what you want to do, she's more inclined to understand you and then take your case to your dad. Unaelewa? You have, there's like a step you have to go through. Ukienda straight kwa mzee hata ngumi atakupiga. Wewe tunaanza kubishana wewe. Tunaanza let me tell you what ile kitu wazazi wako na. Acha nikwambie kiukweli tu watu waache ungati. Kuna hiyo rigid fulani umeset up mtu yeye atakuwa hii, and you start forcing that child to be that. Clearly hata nature imekuonyesha mtu hawezi kwa hiyo kitu unataka. You wanted this child to be a soldier. Hajarefuka. Hajatoshea kwenda KDF. Lakini wewe umemwambia wewe utaenda, utakuwa soldier. Unampambania hapo. Hata nature imekataa, imekuonyesha haiwezekani. Unaona? ulikuwa unataka kufanya kazi mtu yeye afanyaje kazi ya ofisi kama amenyamaza, anakuwa kama nonsense. Anaongea. Bado unamuinsistia enda kwa hiyo ofisi unyamaze hapo. Unaona?
It doesn't work now.
You cannot do that as a parent. You need also, but you see, we need to go to a point where we have conversations with children. Unaelewa? We have
Yeah, it's
conversations.
not a monologue.
You know-
Nimekuja and my word
yes.
is final.
Hata kama amepotea njia, you are wise. You've been through there. You know,
Yeah.
another mistake that children think or this young generation assume is that parents were born parents. They don't know that parents grew up. At some point, your mother was a teenager, she was an adolescent, then she became your mother. Unaelewa? So you as a mother, you know that, but this child does not know that. So unaona mtu huyu anakupiga chenga hapa, instead of kuanza kufight naye juu kwa hiyo chenga, why don't you just entertain, msikilize, mlete, wewe uko na hiyo wisdom, you know where this road leads
Anaelekea
to.
tu.
Wewe mngojee kwa destination, hakuje na conversation yake afike, amwambie sasa ukifika hapa inakuwa imefika mwisho. One day I was there na nilifanywa hivi. Why don't we do ABCD? The best way to make people do something is when they think it is their initiative. You know, when they think it is, ukiambia mtu huyu afanye kitu ile umemuorder ataenda kufanya because umemwambia. But when you have a conversation and they think it's their project, they will dedicate themselves more into it. That is the kind of parenting I think we should take. The part where we have conversations with our children. Talk to them, not talk down to them.
Hey.
Yeah, I mean,
But
because yes,
I think mtu aelewe too. As you see, like different homes have different
exactly, yes.
different. There are people who go through. People who go through their mother to get through to their father. There are people who the daughter and the father conversation is
And then
easy.
of course sisi kama last born sisi ndo sukuma sana. Wewe ndo seme.
And wewe enda wewe hautapigwa.
You go say.
You know, so and also remember, like some of us who are firstborns, they have taken the roles of parents
with the other children.
to the other children. So I think it's just as long as all of us understand each other, no matter the route that you're going to use, as long as we are okay, no one is bitter, no one, you know, because again, when you put not even a child, anybody through what they don't want, you become so bitter because you're being forced to do something that you wouldn't want. And again, if you did not explain to your parents, they will think you're rebelling. So there will be sort of friction. And when there's friction, I usually say that families and homes are supposed to be a source of comfort. They're supposed to be a happy place. Not now when you start thinking that you're closing school and going home, it is when nitabaki tuition,
Yes.
because you don't want even to go home. So,
The time that, and I use this example just to show parents that there is hope. The day I was suspended, yeah, I was dreading going home. There is a certain picture of my father in Akwanga kwa ukuta hivi, where he looks very understanding. That's the first. But you see, it was because I knew nilikuwa nimefanya makosa. Yenye niliambiwa nisifanye na nikafanya. But still we made it. Let's take a look at some of your feedback before I get in trouble. Let's see what you're saying here. Odote Hillary. Yes, to some extent, I am a sum total of my upbringing. The parents have played a major role in ensuring we are brought up in the right way. Nevertheless, some virtues have come along as I learn and interact with different intellectuals. B_Sengeli. Parents' obligation is not to make the child happy, but to teach them how to be happy. Not to make them comfortable, but to teach them how to tolerate discomfort. For these lessons, upsetting to them as they may be now, will better equip them for survival later when it matters most. Very interesting. Jika Felix says the goal of parenting is to teach kids to develop self-discipline. Many parents feel spanking is necessary for discipline. On that note, even as we wrap up and take our final comments, to cane or not to cane? CJ. I mean, so different forms of discipline.
Well, children will take different forms of discipline at different stages. If you are going to use the cane, I will not dismiss it completely. If you're going to use the cane, it must be the last resort. And it has got to be for a very valid reason. You can't be using the cane for everything that you think about. I think I must have shared this one time before. My wife, you know, she's calmer than I am. And for the record, Willis, I was also suspended in high school. I had to change schools
Allah.
over there.
Shatta, why you were suspended?
We're in good company.
You were in 5 high schools.
Shatta was in
Hey,
high school.
I am the...
So, anyway, coming back to that, my wife once told me, and I said this one time, that, you know, a child, when you're caning a child, they need to know why. They need to see that they actually deserve to be disciplined. And then you've got to say, okay, I'm going to spank you 3 for what you've done. The reason being, yes, and I've taught myself that. The reason being, Willis, you see, you carry a lot of stuff. You could be having pressure from work. You could be having pressure from anywhere else. Then this child has made a mistake and you feel you need to spank. Without knowing, you are going to let out all the pressure from work, from people, from everything on this kid. Before you know, those were 21 canes.
Yes.
Now you feel relief.
Right.
If you
After 21.
After 21.
And throwing the stick at them as well.
Yeah, and saying a lot of things. If you don't have self-control, don't ever go the direction of caning.
Yeah.
If you have to cane, let it be something that the kid also understands, so that they don't also hate you, that you used to beat them. Let them know, okay, I was wrong. And so they know, I'm going to cane you for this. Don't cane when you're angry, because you will hurt your child. Then tomorrow, you still need to have a relationship with this child, and it's going to be very tricky. So there needs to be a level of emotional intelligence before you can get into the spanking. So let it be the last resort if you really have to, and let the other person understand why they have to go through that. If not, just find other ways.
Yeah, find other ways. Well, we'll begin gathering final comments. Tuanze na wewe Shatta, ama tulianza na wewe?
Tulianza na mimi.
Sawa, wacha tuanze na
Lakini hapo kwa kunyoroshwa. Kunyoroshwa nayo itatii.
Aya.
Hiyo nayo iishi. Au ya African.
hiyo lazima ikue.
Na lakini mimi kama mtoto ni wako, utapiga kuua. Unaona? Na kama unategemea unapiga mtoto umdiscipline ama unampiga tu. You know, but if you're caning them to discipline them, you will know the moderation. Vile CJ amesema, you will know the moderation. But kama sasa unampiga juu kwa hasira zako za kazi, hiyo ni ubombo. Una get? But mimi kama mimi singenyoroshwa kiukweli tu, mimi kama singenyoroshwa zingekuwa hivyo. My mom had to rain terror on me for me to be this.
Hata mimi nilinyoroshwa sawa sawa. Yangu ilikuwa hiyo ya 3, lakini after 3
3 ilikuwa ni kionjo.
So the rest is Aki. But we did well. Akinyi, itiwa well. Yes, go ahead.
I cannot relate with watu wa kunyoroshwa because
really,
not even that. I was a very disciplined child, or rather it's fear, I don't know. But when I was listening to a child's counselor yesterday, the way CJ said, physical should be the last one, and of course be in a state of, be very calm when you're doing it and have a conversation. I want to beat you because of X, Y, Z. And before we get to that, there are other things, and also like at different ages you discipline according to a certain age, and again also understand your child. Like that, the counselor said something very interesting that I had to just internalize. Like understanding your child's love language, because I mean love languages are just not with adults, they're children. There are those children who desire physical touch, like them, they love hugs, they love high fives. Then when you beat that child, you're messing up with, because you see these are the same hands that hug, but they're the same hands that will beat. So it's confusing. So even if you have to avoid using hands, kuna ka slipper, kuna ka mwiko, kuna ka belt, so that it's
tools of trade.
Tools of trade, yeah. But also different children are handled differently. So if you have children, comparison, don't compare. When you ulianza kuapply na firstborn, sio venye itakuwa na lastborn. That's why parenting is, you need to be present. So present, and even read even between the lines of children. It's not a job you can delegate. It's not a job that you can run away from. And that's why it's not just about giving birth. That is, carrying for 9 months, it's not easy, but that's not where the job is. It is this parenting. It's a full-time job.
It's a full-time job.
Willis, allow me, okay, yes. I know we're all gone past time. Just based on what Nonsizi has said, understanding that parenting is that kind of a job, for those of you who are all right now, please do your best. Be a blessing to your parents.
Yeah, man.
Nobody has ever believed in you like your parent. So if you can, just be a blessing to them. This is not about now payback.
Yes.
This is just appreciation. Don't live in the city living large and
Soft
you,
life.
Wazazi wako huko nyumbani.
and
Yeah.
you don't take care of your parents. It's a lot that they went through. Yeah.
Hey, that's the perfect place to end it.
My firstborn, our elder siblings, please be disciplined, because makosa yetu naleteaga watoto wadogo. Tunakujanga kunyoroshwa because tusiharibike kama nyinyi wale
No,
wakubwa.
but me, if all of you are needed and me, I'm the
Parents
first
will
one,
be
all of
lenient
you
with
are
us.
were suspended,
new
I'm the
daybreak.
first one.
Ati mbona unachapa hivi because
Your brother.
yako
You want to
alifanya
be like
hivi.
your brother.
Yeah, you know, that used to happen. I was once at a store and a supermarket, and I saw this kid was causing a tantrum, ameanguka hapo, and this parent was sitting holding their daughter in the hand like this, and anaangalia this child ana cause tantrum, akatana akachapa huyu. Akamwambia ni nini? Akasema sitaki, usiwahi nifanyie kitu kama hiyo. Kuchapa by proxy. Anyway, thank you so much for all of the comments. I wish we would read all of them and all of the comments. Clearly, parenting is something that is something that you need to think through. Try to be better. There's a lot of information and materials out there. You can, even if you just type what we've written here, Parenting 101 on Google, it'll bring you a lot of things. Read, understand your children better. Children, respect your parents as well. Let's have some sort of communication. And like CJ said, if you're okay today, if you know that you know that you know, you caused hell in that house, and here you are today enjoying the fruits of, you know, parents who are there for you, or even if they're not, I mean, if you can, try to be there for them. That way, utakuwa tu itals, ndio. I'm not talking about commandment with the promise. I'm just saying, just do what you gotta do. Now, utabarikiwa. Peace and love. There is a sound man called David who is on duty. Therefore, I can't say my catchphrase because at an mute, but Chelsea is playing Leicester today. I wish them all the worst. Peace.